Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are. Welcome to Ask the Theologian today. Glad you're here with us. Thanks for joining us. Sorry, a few minutes late there. And I don't know, does it look a little bright to you or is it okay? No, maybe it's okay. It's just my monitor there. Good to see everybody. Oh, we got Nicole in Michigan joining us today. What a happy day it is. She doesn't get to join us very often. A working woman. And glad you're here, Nicole. Thank you very much. Scott's down here. Hey, Scott, is any of you in Arizona? Scott's trying to find somebody who knows what's going on with the vote count down there. It seems like information blackout has taken place. Imagine that. Anybody know what's going on there? Nancy says it well. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, friends, depending on where you are and when you're watching. Good to see Charles, the instigator, here, and Rudy, Nicole, of course. Got some texts going on. Stephanie, I answered one of your questions yesterday, and we'll get to this other one here today. Thank you very much. Ontario is here with us. Oh, Massachusetts, our favorite pastor mail carrier, pastor/mail carrier. Bob is with us. Hey, so Bob, do you listen while you're delivering mail, or how does this go? What all's happening there? That's good to see you, Bev, up in Wisconsin. Good to see you, and Bruce, good to see you today. Indiana, right? Did I get that right? Bruce knows what happened to the count. Rigged, he says. Yeah, I'm afraid. I think I'll try to show you a picture here. If I can figure out how to get there. I took this. Let me just back up a little bit here. I took some pictures the other day when I was voting. There's my mother-in-law and my wife as we were there ready to vote. And then there's my granddaughter. She's getting ready to vote here. That's where she saw a dog down the way, and she wanted to point out the dog. And so I said, point out the voting. But as I was voting, I took a picture of that. That's the voting machine, but here's what you need to look at right there. You know, we know that this is not a secure system because even if you can't hack it from the outside, which I'm kind of doubtful of, but even if you couldn't hack it from the outside, you can hack it from the inside. You got somebody on the inside who wants to change the algorithm of how it's going to count votes. Not a problem. You just program that thing to do it. That's why I believe we really do have to have a paper ballot and a human count, and the human count has to be in the precinct. You know, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, if the Libertarians want, they got to get people out there all watching, 2 or 3 eyes on it. And here's the tally right here. It's not that hard. I know there are 300 and some odd million people in the United States, but we break it down by precincts. This is not rocket science. This could easily be done. And I'm pretty sure you could have every vote counted. Polls close at 7 o'clock. I'm sure you could not touch them until 7 o'clock when the polls close, or when the last person in line goes through. And you could have the count probably in by 10 p.m. Give it 3 hours, because I don't know, most of these, I voted at noon and I was number 71. I can count 71 votes and get eyes on it, and let's say it doubled. Let's say it, I don't know, tripled maybe. We got 300 by the time the day's over. I can count 300 votes in half an hour. No problem with that at all. And it's by precinct. And, as a matter of fact, I think that obviously some precincts are bigger. But this particular precinct, 14, 15, and 40, 3 precincts there. And I was number 71. Okay, these precincts aren't big. It can be done. And I don't understand why the Republican Party, for one, doesn't just have a national outcry for this. There are, even if the Republicans don't have enough to get elected, they have enough to insist that we do this right. Bruce says paper ballots in Indiana. I suppose if it's paper ballots, that's the way you got to count it, right? You count, a few eyeballs and a tally sheet is the way you do it. And that enables people to be in the room and watch at all times. This does not enable people to be in the room and watch at all time, because somebody somewhere, I don't know him, why should I trust him? I shouldn't. Somebody somewhere can just, go with a keyboard and change things. Simple as that. Cliff the Canadian says that machine's from Canada. Rigged. Yeah, I think so. And they're really, Deb, I agree. We've had 2 years to figure this out, but apparently we don't want to fix it. And I agree. I don't know why Donald Trump hasn't made a bigger case of this. Anybody, why isn't Mario, sorry, I saw Mario Lennon here. Lenny, good to see you. But I was thinking Florida and Mario, Rubio, Marco, but I'm actually thinking Ron DeSantis. Why hasn't he made a big stink of it? Okay, so he's on the winning side. Who cares? Make a big stink of it, because when Ron DeSantis gets out of Florida, it's going to be a whole new ballgame. He can be the poster child in Florida of all good things, and as soon as he crosses the border over into Georgia, it's a whole new ballgame. So he ought to be making a stink of it. Everybody ought to be making a stink of it, and yet nobody makes a stink of it. Oh, Bruce says India with 2 billion can count an election the same day. Yeah, because it doesn't take that long. You can have you seen a bank? You ever been to the teller? And we don't. Most of us don't do this every day, but you go sometime to the teller, and for whatever reason, you have to get some, a big pot of cash. $1,000, $10,000, whatever. And have you seen those ladies? Man, they can go fast. By hand, they don't even use the silly little counting machine because it doesn't get it right. It makes errors. It's too slow. You really can do it very efficiently, and it's so much harder to cheat on it. Now, you could still have someone stuff the ballot box like Lyndon Johnson did, but stuffing the ballot box is not quite as easy as just, telling the machine, for every Republican vote, add, 0.6 of a Democratic vote. You can program all that kind of stuff in. So it's kind of a shame that that has happened. And this seems to be what has happened in every Western country in which there is a strong leftist progressive agenda, that they don't want to have paper ballots. Wherever the leftists progress, it is away from paper ballots. And I think that's because they're cheaters. The leftists aren't honest people. They're cheaters. And they don't want to fix it, as Jerry says right here. Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, I didn't know we were going to talk about the elections when we started on here, but I think I think until we do something like that, our goose is cooked. And I am super, super suspicious of anybody who would be against paper ballots. There's absolutely no good reason except I want to rob you blind. That would be the only reason to be against paper ballots. No good reason whatsoever. So you tell me, you know, I'm not for paper ballots. I am quite suspicious. Before we get into the program, I put this on Facebook, but I didn't put it anywhere else. So I'll just go ahead because I had the picture up. I wasn't going to talk about it, but looks like Daryl McCaffrey's here, and 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 here. little chat problem there that his came through about 15 times, but we're glad you're here, Daryl. I really, until last night on social media, and I hadn't said anything about this, but I've had high blood pressure for a long time. And sometimes I would say, to the point I was saying, I gotta go to the doctor or something and do something about this. But I started doing some stuff that brought it down. I didn't want to go to the doctor and have some chemical concoction that they would stick in me that wouldn't even fix the problem. No, it would bring my blood pressure down. That's what those chemicals do. They bring your blood pressure down. But why is my blood pressure up? Why is my blood pressure up? You know, is it a DNA problem? I don't really think so. Though some DNA could lead to it. But I just began to do some research and do my own doctrine. I thought, I don't like the doctrine that they're going to give me. Some stranger is going to come in after some nurse that I don't know takes my blood pressure once. And you know how blood pressure can really go up and down. I mean, in a matter of minutes, it can be very, very different. So they're going to take one reading. They don't know me. They're going to take one reading. I'm going to go sit in the doctor's office. He's going to look at the chart and says, "Oh, yeah, 178 or 106, high blood pressure. Here, I'm writing this out. There you go." And they won't try to fix the problem. They will just sell me some pharmaceuticals. That's all doctors do today. If you're a doctor, argue with me on this, against it, and let's see. All they want to do is sell me some pharmaceuticals. I don't want to buy their pharmaceuticals. I want a different way. And so I began to do some study and figured out how much the jaw, the teeth, have to do with heart problems. And you know what I'm reading is probably 95% of heart problems come from a tooth problem. And yeah, I knew I had some teeth that I probably should take care of, and so I went and took care of them. I had 2 teeth pulled out, you remember, last summer. And I learned about vitamin C. I even taught about that a little bit in our prophecy conference. And now my blood pressure is consistently normal. And so here's the picture. I took this first one, 178 over 106. That's level 2 hypertension. That's bad. And that I took in July. And I don't have a little, chart where I was keeping it up, but I take my blood pressure every day. And so a lot of times I take a picture of it. Not every time, but a lot of times. And then, now this is what it's running. This is one I took yesterday, 112 over 64. And I didn't take any of the pharmaceutical drugs. And Nancy, being very rude there, she says, "Lose your gut, drop your blood pressure." How rude, Nancy. But I didn't lose any weight, so that wasn't what it was in my case. Though I'm working on losing a little. I actually have recently, just in the last month. I've started trying to eat a little different, and I've lost 5 pounds. Okay, I'm not really trying to, but I've lost 5 pounds. But my blood pressure had come down even before the 5 pounds, and the 5 pounds is not going to make a huge degree of difference. So I got rid of the teeth, and I started taking vitamin C. Right there it is, vitamin C. And I took a lot of vitamin C, a lot more than the jar says. Take vitamin C, and it worked. I agree with Nancy in general. Lose your gut, drop your blood pressure. That's very true. But all things being equal, vitamin C will get rid of the infection, and the infection is what's causing the high blood pressure if it's not the gut. So there I am. I'm just promoting heavy vitamin C usage and getting rid of tooth problems. Even a minor tooth problem, get rid of it. And don't what do they call it? Root canal it. I got one root canal left, and I'm getting rid of it soon. And just get, if it's a tooth that's done with, get rid of it. You can put in a good quality implant if you want, if you need it, depending on where it is. And sometimes you do need those. I mean, we have to chew after all. But I think we can take control of our own health, and probably should. No, let me just say that differently. We should take control of our own health. There's a time and a place, obviously, for a doctor, and there are times when you get to such a danger level that you got to have something quick, and taking care of your health the right way is not quick. So don't die. If need be, but that, on the left, that's a pretty danger zone right there, 178 over 106. And it was decently consistent. And now I'm decently consistent right there in the 112, 64, little, I think, what do they say, 120 over 80 maybe is kind of normal. And I'm usually on a little hair of the low, little hair of the high, just depending on the time of day and all that kind of stuff. So I think that most of us could fix our health problems if we'll start while we're healthy, especially, and work through that. But even if we're not healthy, to start taking the right stuff and eating the right stuff and all that kind of stuff. Okay, you didn't call for Dr. White. So let's get in. Yeah, Nancy says, drop eating high carbs and you'll drop your triglycerides. I've learned, and really the way I've lost these 5 pounds, I haven't stopped carbs. I just watch carbs more closely, and I up my protein. The hard thing is not upping the bad fats. If you up your protein, you got to be a little careful there, but you can certainly do it. But I have learned if I get more protein and balance out those carbs with the protein, I haven't really been eating less. I've just been eating different and lost a few pounds. Okay. Gotta get into the questions through all that. Let's see. Let's start out with Jay's question. In Tennessee, Jay had a new baby. How's she doing? Hope she's doing well, Jay. I'd love to see a picture. Send it my way. But we've got a question from Jay. We've got a question from Stephanie. We got a question from a health question from Deb about eating bugs. That's a neat one. Jerry, this is our Georgia Jerry. We try to rightly divide our Jerrys. The difference between Christ, the mediator during the age of grace, and the mediator of the New Testament pertaining to the Jews. Difference, if any, in that. So let's get started there. And then I've got some other questions. That's just interesting chat going on. Cliff says, I stopped eating tomatoes every day and 90% of my arthritis left me. That's very interesting. Stephen says, few of us have carbs now. And now it's all electronic ignition, fuel injection. Carbs. You know, often, let me take that. Quit eating tomatoes, arthritis leaves. I would guess, I may not be right, I would guess that's kind of an individual thing. Your body was responding to, I don't know, probably the acid in the tomatoes or something with arthritis, which is an inflammation kind of thing. And sometimes you can, it's almost luck, but not completely. It's almost luck trying to find, oh, that's what it is. And, you know, any of you who have chronic problems and you realize it's, hey, it's better today. I would go through the diet and think, you know, what is this? What is it? I used to get canker sores. Quite often, I would get canker sores, mouth sores. And I'm like, no, what's up here? What's up here? And I realized it's chocolate. I don't know how I discovered that other than I noticed I had them a lot at holiday times. A lot of times at the holiday, I was eating a lot of fudge and stuff. And if I don't eat chocolate, I never have a canker sore. I stumbled onto it. You just learn it after a while. But if you kind of pay attention, do a little mental log, you know, how did this affect me? What happened? What was in all of that today? Charles says, I don't have high blood pressure because ex-IRS agents don't have a heart. That very well could be true. I think that it has to go with being an IRS agent, right? Okay, let's get into the program here and get started here. We can talk health if you want to, but I'll take the questions that come in, starting with Jay's question here in just a moment. And let's do a little television program. Otherwise, Nathan will get on to me because I think he's running low on him. And so we will definitely get that started right here. And you know the drill. I'll start the program. I'll do the program for 28 and a half minutes. I'll conclude that program, and then we will continue on. So when it concludes, don't go away. Here we go. I'll be back in 15 seconds. Maybe I didn't push the button. We'll try again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Randy White. Welcome to our program today, Ask the Theologian. You can find us at randywhiteministries.org or submit your questions 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at askthetheologian.com. We have a full hour broadcast that takes place at randywhiteministries.org. We also broadcast on worshify.com and on youtube.com/Randy White. We start with a question today in Tennessee, and it is a question about justice and grace. Remember, we do right division here, trying to divide things that need to be divided and not mix things which should not be mixed. So Jay asks a right division question saying, is justice compatible with grace? Think about it here for a moment. Just even before we get into the commentary that he's got and the additional aspects of the question, Jay says, okay, justice, that's kind of, getting a person what they deserve. And grace is, we often define it as an undeserved gift. So is justice incompatible with grace? One of the main responses to eternal security, Jay says, is how could someone be saved that did insert extremely horrible thing here? Yeah. That is one of the responses to once saved, always saved. How can they be saved? They did the extremely horrible thing. How can they be saved? There's this natural response and desire for justice. Okay, I go on with Jay's comments. He says the only response that I can think of is, that's what grace is. But to someone that's been the victim of something terrible, that seems inadequate. How should we view divine justice during the dispensation of grace? Or is our concept of justice distorted due to living in a fallen world? Well, let me start at the end there, as I sometimes do. Is our concept of justice distorted to living in a fallen world? There perhaps is some distortion that comes because of the pain that we have experienced because of injustice. Injustice stings. I'm talking about injustice really between mankind. This neighbor and that neighbor, this spouse and that spouse, this friend and that friend, this pastor and that church member, whatever it is, somewhere along the way, this company and that company, this company and that employee, somewhere along the way, we have been stung by injustice. Now, what is the role of justice versus the role of grace in our lives today? I'm going to actually try to divide out a little bit our everyday lives versus our salvation. I think that we are human beings who live in a world that is fallen. We live in a world that has so much injustice all about. And we live spiritually in a dispensation in which God says, I have given you all the wisdom that you need through the revelation, my complete revelation in the 66 books of the Bible. Now, living in this world, I am allowing you, mankind, to form your own governments, to select your own judge and jury, and to make your own decisions about how punishment is going to happen or not going to happen, and what exactly is going to define justice. And we really do have to define justice. I mean, there are things we hear on the news, unfortunately, way too often. So-and-so today murdered his stepmother, and he was 16 years old, and the judge would like to, or the prosecutors would like to try him as an adult. Okay, what's that? What we're saying is, hey, we have a different justice standard for someone who's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 than we do for someone who's 18, 19, 20, 21. And yet we still are able in our society to come together and call it justice. Here's justice for a 12-year-old. Here's justice for a 21-year-old. And we have those separations of justice that we've kind of made societally. We could argue about them. We do argue about them. And sometimes we want to change the standards that we've already argued about and written down and put into our laws. Our legislators have put into our laws and ordinances for the various states or jurisdictions that have come about. But justice is a little bit relative. And one of the reasons it's a little bit relative is because God has said, I'm giving you wisdom and I'm going to let you figure it out. Justice is whatever you want justice to be. And this has become much more of a problem in our world today, in which there are wildly different views about justice and about incarceration and whether there should be punishment or whether there should be rehabilitation and what ought to take place, or some degree of both, what ought to take place. And so politically, there's a huge divide in justice. But I think, is justice incompatible with grace? Well, I am a person under grace, and Jay's a person under grace, and we live in a world which requires us to deal with justice sometimes, just in our lives in our world. And so I would say justice in the world we live in now is compatible with grace. I am a person under grace, and I might be selected to be on a jury. And I would use the wisdom, and even more than that, I would be required to use the laws and the Constitution under which it was all taking place, and see that the person's getting a fair trial. Is there, the evidence is beyond reasonable doubt, all those things that they would try to convince the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and I would have to make my decision there. Now, that really is a different kind of justice. I believe that in terms of divine justice, God is not actively doing justice today. I know that's a shock to hear, because so much of the Christian world just rejects that idea, but God is only working, the only kind of divine justice that is taking place today is, shall we call it providential? That is behind the scenes. That is that God has already set some things in motion that will bear fruit and will carry themselves out. As we've said several times here, even recently in this program, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever man sows, that also shall he reap. So he has built into nature, and by nature I mean human nature. I mean the physical, natural world. He has built a justice system in. As they say, if you sow wild oats, don't expect to get a good wheat harvest. It's not going to happen. What you sow, you will reap. So that kind of justice is baked in the cake. And that is taking place. Now, the problem when it comes to issues like eternal security is that we take the kind of justice that's baked into the cake for the world that we live in, and we take the fact that God has given us government and told us that, we're in charge of it, and we have to make the government into what it ought to be. And so we have all these concepts of justice, and we take that into salvation. I think on salvation, justice is incompatible with grace. You take a passage like, let's go to Ephesians chapter 2, verses 8 and 9, of course, very familiar passage of Scripture, for by grace are you saved through faith, that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. Now, I believe I'm going to take it as salvation here. Salvation is the gift of God. Being the gift of God, it is by grace, through faith, not of works. You can't boast about it. God just gave it to us. So there is no justice going on. Perhaps you could argue that the justice took place with Christ upon the cross in the becoming the propitiation, the payment, the expiation for our sins. But in a real sense, when it comes to Jay in Tennessee and Randy in Taos, I think you end up having to say that justice didn't play a part in it. It would not be just for God to save me in the first place, let alone to keep me saved and to keep me complete in Him. It is 100% an undeserved gift. It is 100% grace. So you come along then and you say, well, I believe in eternal security. Well, how could someone be saved that did extremely horrible thing? How in the world could that? How is that justice? It's not. God has chosen to save the person who did insert extremely horrible thing by grace. And so we live in this age of grace. This is the sad news about those who reject it or never hear about it. That you've got this unbelievably good gift sitting right there, ready to be used and enjoyed and be blessed by. And some people don't accept it. Some people reject it. And many people in the Christian faith don't even communicate it. You know what we communicate when you go out to share the gospel? I got good news. God loves you and has a wonderful plan for your life. But man, you are scum. You did extremely horrible thing. I can't believe this, and you need to repent of that. You need to get over that. You need to turn or burn. And once you turn, the grace of God. Matchless, wonderful, matchless grace of Jesus is right there for you. And so we insert this justice issue because we sort of feel like, there ought to be some justice. that ought to come in here. And I think that really becomes a challenge. So when we're talking about eternal security, I think when we're talking about salvation altogether, there is no justice. It is a gift that God gives. It is a gift that is by grace. We could not earn it. We could not deserve it. It is just something that He has chosen to give. And that's what we ought to communicate to a lost world out there, that God really does have this wonderful gift that He's given to you. Even you who did insert extremely horrible thing. Can't believe you did that. God's got a gift for you. And you can be complete in Him once and for all. Really is a great grace message that comes. And being a great grace message, we ought to share a grace message completely. Thank you. Jay in Tennessee, I appreciate that. Let's go down to Stephanie in the big country of Texas. How exactly would Gentiles be saved in the kingdom gospel? Would it always mean converting to Judaism? Does saved in the kingdom gospel mean entering into the kingdom? I need some clarification here. Okay, let's get some clarification here. Let's pull out our favorite poster here and be reminded that there is what we'll call, and Stephanie has called here, a kingdom gospel, and then there is an individual gospel. Now, if you've never heard that before, that's a little shock, because we understand that there is only one gospel by which men must be saved. And that is really true in our dispensation where we are today. Nobody is saved anywhere but by grace through faith under the Pauline pattern, this individual gospel that's offered to Stephanie down in Texas or Rand in New Mexico. And it is this gift that we've been talking about already in today's program. That is what is offered. That is what is given. That is the only salvation that there is. That is the only way to a relationship with the Lord. But then there was and will be after the rapture this kingdom gospel. The kingdom gospel is offered not to the individual, but to the nation. It is offered to the nation of Israel, and it has to do with the covenants and the promises that were given to, really going back to Abraham, and definitely defined as kingdom during the days of King David. And, we're shown, the kingdom was clearly shown, say, in Daniel chapter 2 and very much through Daniel and into the prophets. And kingdom salvation was, you will get to enter into the earthly messianic kingdom, the kingdom that is future, physical, and fraternal. That kingdom you will get to enter. Now, what was the gospel or the good news, or let's just say the method of entry into the kingdom gospel? Let me say that the kingdom gospel is not being offered today. God has put that on hold. After the age of grace is over, He'll go back and deal with Israel, to whom the kingdom promises are given, and those who are lo ami will become ami. That is, to borrow the Hebrew words from Hosea, those who are not my people will become my people. They're not His people today because He's not dealing with Jew nor Greek. He's just dealing with individuals today. No ethnicity involved in it. But there are ethnic promises to Israel, and He promises that. So after this age of grace, then the kingdom gospel will come back. So if you're a Gentile, and this is a question specific for Gentiles, although it would be very close to the same for those who are Jews as well. But the question is, how could a Gentile be saved in the kingdom gospel? Let's go ahead and use the word saved, but let's not confuse it with an instant relationship with God and being right with Him. Because before Paul, that simply wasn't available. That before Paul, the pathway to being right with God was to be obedient to the law. So if we go back to, let's suppose there is the rapture today, or maybe someone is watching this post-rapture, And after the rapture, they're thinking, okay, I don't like what's happening politically. I happen to be an independent libertarian. I don't like this one world order that is coming about. I don't go along with this one world religion that's coming about. I am going to be independent. I see the mark of the beast that he's requiring. Obviously, it's not going to be called the mark of the beast. I'm sure it's going to be called some social credits or something like this. I don't like that. I don't like the surveillance that's given. I don't like the demand that is given. I don't like the overreach of the government that's given. I'm not going to go there. Okay, so how is that Gentile saved? Let me just say, I believe that if you're a Gentile after the rapture and you don't get the mark of the beast, you're going to die. That's all there is to it. You're going to die. And you're going to die outside of the commonwealth and covenants of Israel. And what is that? Ephesians chapter 2, verse 12. Yeah. That at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope and without God in the world. Now, let me see if I can highlight what I want. There we go. If you're not in the age of grace and you are an alien from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers of the covenant of promise, then you have no hope. You're without God in the world. So the Gentile who just says, I'm libertarian and therefore I am not going to get the mark of the beast, I'm not going to bow down to that God they created, I'm not doing that. That does not mean they're going to be saved. I think they're going to die. They're going to starve to death or they're going to be killed. This is what totalitarian regimes always do, is they just kill the people that don't go along. And they end up, look, it's 100%. Everybody voted for us. And so that's what will happen. But that Gentile would die, aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, strangers from the covenant of promise, without hope, not having God in the world. So they've got to somehow no longer be aliens to the commonwealth of Israel, no longer be strangers to the covenants of promise, so that they're no longer having no hope without God in the world. So would it mean converting to Judaism? I would say yes. You can't meet the requirements of the kingdom, which are found in the scripture. Don't go down to your local church and ask what are the requirements of the kingdom. Go into the Bible and ask. And when you find the requirements for the kingdom, they are obedience to the laws and the covenants of Israel. And so you can't do that. You can't be obedient to the laws and the covenants of Israel without being in Judaism. And so you become a Jew, and then when the abomination of desolation comes, you flee with Israel into the wilderness, and thereby you are saved. Thereby you will enter into the coming kingdom. So it is very much get yourself in the right place at the right time, doing the right things, is the kingdom gospel. That's every time you see the kingdom gospel taught mostly you see that in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. When you see it taught, that's really what it is. Align yourself with the covenants and the commonwealth of Israel, live a righteous life according to the law, and then when Messiah comes to establish his kingdom, you will hear those words, well done. It's a works thing. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your master. It is very hard for those of us who cut our teeth on evangelical theology to understand dividing that which is Israel versus that which is the body of Christ. We're always wanting to mix these together. So the need for clarification on the kingdom versus the mystery gospel, Paul's gospel, will be there for a long time, Stephanie. And as soon as you think you get that figured out, there's another aspect of it that comes, because we just have mixed these things so many times and so long that it takes a while to separate them out into something that begins to make sense. Appreciate that. Stephanie, down in Texas, God bless you. And let's go to Deb in the Ozarks, who's got a rather interesting question based upon Matthew chapter 3, verse 4, which says, "And the same John," that's John the Baptist, "had his raiment of camel's hair and a leathern girdle about his loins. And," let's go right here, "his meat was locusts and wild honey." Now, let me say that in the King James, the word meat was broader than just what we would consider meat today. Typically comes from an animal. Meat in the King James was food. So his food was locusts and wild honey. Here is the question. Since we might have to eat bugs in the future, do you think locusts would be our best choice? Or was that something for John alone? You know, first of all, there is, I'm gonna present an alternate understanding of the word locusts. But I do it with a little bit of trepidation, because it is my belief that if the plain sense makes common sense, seek no other sense. It's my belief that you just take the Bible literally. This is what it says. There it is. But there is a chance that locusts right here is not what we today call a locust. That possibility arises from that which does grow in the Jordan River Valley, and that is what we call today a locust tree. And with that, could it be, is it talking about bugs, or is it talking about the tree? It's often sometimes called the carob tree, by the way. And the carob is the same thing we get the word carrot from. Not the kind of carrot you eat, but the kind of carrot you use to weigh a diamond, because the carob seeds were used to weigh the diamonds and see how many carobs you got, or how many carrots now, as it came about. Now, let's go to the Oxford English Dictionary here for just a moment and see what the standard on words means. Let's see if there's any chance that the King James could have meant trees instead of bugs. Let's take a look. Here is locust. Here's its various forms: locus, locust, locuses. There we go. Multiple origins, partly a borrowing from French, partly a borrowing from Latin. Since French came from Latin, we'll just call it a Latin word. In the etymology, let's open this out. Okay, any of several large insects of the grasshopper family. So the French said let's go for the regular grasshopper. Now, they bring that to the first half of the 12th century in Anglo-Norman, 14th century in continental French. In its etymology, the study of where the word came, classical Latin locusta, any of several large insects of the grasshopper family, crustacean, probably a kind of lobster of unknown origin. Okay. Looking through here, it goes, yes, okay. Since 5b is due to confusion of the acacia pod with the carob pod. From the 3rd century, many patristic and later writers have believed that John the Baptist's diet was vegetarian. This opinion appears to reflect the traditional prohibition of meat in many ascetic and monastic rules, and may in part also result from a perceived conflict of the unusual of the usual sense of the Greek word with the Jewish dietary laws, which forbid the consumption of most insects. However, locusts, crickets, grasshoppers were specifically allowed, Leviticus 11:20 through 23. For a detailed account of the various interpretations of locusts and wild honey, which constituted the diet of John the Baptist, see Kellhofer, Diet of John the Baptist, 2004, whether that's good or not. So, okay, they do come about and say, look, there appeared to be a problem. But I'm going to go, I'll tell you what, the key words I'm going to look at are right here. From the 3rd century. I think the King James probably knew where it came from. They're probably meaning meat, grasshoppers. Let's take it for grasshoppers. How's that? I just wanted you to know there is another argument out there, but that maybe this means vegetarian diet, as it says right there. But was this something just for John alone? There's nothing in the text that says John was required. John was under a Nazirite vow, but a Nazirite vow just requires you dietarily to stay away from wine. So was it a choice? Was it a convenience? It doesn't seem to be a requirement. Was it a necessity? That he's out there in the wilderness, there's just not a lot to eat. But there is wildlife out there. I've been there. So I would say he ate locusts. Let's go for grasshoppers. He ate grasshoppers. Either because that was simple, or that was convenient. And I don't know that it's ever the best choice for us. Even if it's a great source of protein, and we need protein, I'm going to go with, that's never going to be a good choice. You can grow them cheap, add a little chocolate to it. Try to make it tasty. It's never going to go over. I know that's what they want us to do, but it's never going to go over. I'm Dr. Randy White. This is Ask the Theologian. Thank you for joining us at randywhiteministries.org. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Who is it? The far left says someday we're going to eat bugs and enjoy it. I think that's a really hard sell. Even if you're super, super hungry, that's a really hard sell. That is harder than fake meat to get us to do that. So basically, to get us to eat locusts, I think, for the most part, I've been surprised about how duped humanity can become in a quick amount of time. But I would say that they would have to starve us before we do that. Now they might. But there's something about that just doesn't sell very well. They got a lot of marketing to do. I don't think it's the best choice for us. I even suspect, I've never done any study on this, but I even suspect that in insects, in eating, let's say grasshoppers, in eating grasshoppers or crickets, you'd lose weight, your blood pressure go down. I suspect it's not as healthy as they want us to believe. I don't know this for sure, but gotta be pretty hard to clean it. And certainly crickets, especially, do carry a lot of disease. I know you're going to boil it first or whatever, but to get down to the meaty portion and get rid of all the crust, they're some sort of crustacean, as we read there, to get rid of all that crunch, how do you get the viruses out of them, the germs out of them, all this? I suspect that it's much healthier to eat a good grass-fed steak than it is to eat a cricket. I suspect. Now, you can raise crickets, I'm sure, quicker than you can raise beef. And it's actually a matter of worship of earth, because people like Bill Gates don't worship God, so they got to worship something, so they worship the earth. And so they don't want the earth to have to work on our behalf, because you don't make your God work. So they want the land to grow fallow, just to be free. And so they don't want it plowed. They don't want it, fertilized. They don't want it drilled. They don't, and so they know, well, all those people down there, I'd say let them eat cake, but we don't have enough cake because we'd have to grow flour. So let them eat crickets. And it's the same. It's Marie Antoinette. That's where Bill Gates is. Let them eat crickets. I will have something good. Let them eat crickets. I don't think a good choice. Lisa says, how do you catch a grasshopper? I can tell you from experience, you let 8-year-old boys do it. They'll catch a grasshopper for you. They'll even pluck the legs for you, Lisa. Get an 8-year-old boy. Make sure, be friends with 8-year-old boys. If we're going to have to eat crickets and grasshoppers, be friends with 8-year-old boys, because they'll get it. They'll pluck the legs. They'll have a good time preparing dinner if you'll be friends with 8-year-old boys. Now, some of the others, I don't know. Yeah, let's change the subject. Jerry, is it okay if I save your question for tomorrow? Because it's a good question. I don't want to cheat it in time. About Christ the mediator. Mediator of the New Testament or the mediator during the age of grace. Is there a difference? Let's hit that straight up tomorrow. You'll be first in that particular question. Appreciate that. Tonight is the book of Romans. I think we got our internet issues fixed, so I'm hoping on this Thursday night, we've had 2 or 3 Thursday nights of challenging broadcasting. Hadn't had that in a long time, but then all of a sudden it came up. I think it's going to go, and I think we'll be ready, and we'll be good to go with the book of Romans tonight. What are we, session 4, I think, perhaps, in the book of Romans? And be ready to go. Oh, good, Lisa. You got a 1-year-old grandson, so you got 7 years, and it's going to take him 7 years to get to that point anyway. So just make sure as you raise the boy. I know you're not necessarily raising him, but you're helping there as grandma. As you oversee the boy's raising, make sure that he is not raised to be scared of bugs. I would say this for any boy, and in fact for girls too, but especially for boys. Don't raise boys that are scared of bugs. Raise and maybe for this reason, but just for any reason, because they shouldn't be scared of bugs. Show them dominion over bughood, and what needs to be done to catch grandma some grasshoppers for some grasshopper souffle. You surely have grasshoppers in Kansas, I would think. Crickets probably have both. Excellent. Good to see each one of you here today. And boy, did we have the topics today, didn't we? Everything from blood pressure to crickets to good theological questions. Thanks for being with us again today, and I do look forward to seeing you tonight, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. No glitches whatsoever. We are going to make it, and it's going to be good. And, thanks again for seeing us. us. RandyWhiteMinistries.org. Thanks to those of you who push the donate button every now and then. I sure appreciate that. That's how we pay the bills around here.